Hello, and welcome to today's episode of our Quality in a Quick video series. My name is Bob Cruz, President and co-founder of Checkpoint Technologies. So as you'll recall, on the last episode we talked about high-level test automation. Well, today we're going to chat about test automation frameworks. Our organization has assisted a number of companies in two very specific challenges when it comes to test automation. So one is the challenge of getting your entire team involved when it comes to test automation. As we all know, it involves a different skill. It involves scripting, in other words, programming. And a lot of times software testing engineers don't have the expertise in the background to do that. So that's one challenge. Another challenge is for those organizations implementing DevOps, continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. As you can imagine, when you're trying to get out 30, 40, 60 releases more daily, you've got to implement your test processes as quickly as possible. So the solution to both of those involves a robust, reliable test automation framework. So what is a framework? So with a framework, the definition for that is where you are going to actually separate the automation code from the data. So think about what that provides to you. That actually allows for the separation of the development and the maintenance of all of your different assets. So now if there's some enhancements that have to be performed, you don't have to necessarily have the expertise to dive into the code. You can go in and, if done correctly, just change the data. So the characteristics of a framework. So it involves modular code. So if you've got a robust framework, there should be no duplication or very little of the code. Another characteristic would actually involve scalable. You want scalability. So little effort should be required to add business processes or new application under test to the framework. Because think about how often your application in your software changes. You're constantly adding new features. It also should have, the framework should cover error handling. So all unexpected application errors should be managed by using exception handlers, which are coded or embedded in the framework. Another characteristic, it's got to be reliable. So your framework has to be designed to be robust and, of course, reliable to the point of having scripts run unattended. If it's required to have manual intervention, is it truly automated? No, of course not. And then the other characteristic is data. The data has to be managed externally to the code. Because if they're intertwined, then that is going to force your software test engineers to have a certain level of expertise they may not have. So let me share with you some common elements of a test automation framework. And we're going to talk about three of them. It's got to have a simple front end. So the front end that we most commonly use is actually Microsoft Excel. And we've utilized this. We have created frameworks utilizing UFT as the back end. We've done it for Selenium as well as some other solutions. So a simple front end is critical. It's also got to have a very maintainable back end. So it should not require a significant amount of expertise. And then that back end is going to have certain subcomponents, if you will. It's going to have a master driver. So that master driver is what's going to trigger and start calling everything else. It's going to have an application driver. So the master driver calls the application driver based upon the data. And then in that application driver, business process drivers start getting executed, called and executed. And those business process drivers are actually going to be very small, you can almost call them skeletons of code. So those are components to the third, and then don't forget the data. So the data must be external, and that is where the majority of the time is going to be spent by your software test engineers developing their automated test cases. So again, this is high level. Wanted to keep it to just 4 minutes. I think I've gone a little bit over this episode, but please feel free to email me at this address with any questions at all. I'll be more than happy to get in touch with you and we can even discuss it. If you have any thoughts for future topics, would love to hear that as well. And then here also are some exciting, fantastic upcoming events that Checkpoint Technologies will be putting on in the near future. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.